Good afternoon, everyone. Today on The Hard Truths by Scott Lurie, we are going to be discussing how to make $1 million as a real estate investor. Just kidding. We're going to discuss everything entrepreneurship and real estate based. Everyone wants to make money. Everyone has a scorecard. Today's going to be a great day. I am joined by Denver Biddle today, and it is a great pleasure to be with Denver. We're going to have a great discussion. Denver, welcome to The Hard Truths.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. All right, let's take it away. So talking entrepreneurship, man, let's just get started with this question. I hear this a lot, seen this conversation happen a lot, and I'm just kind of curious myself. In your opinion, do you feel that people are born entrepreneurs? Do you think that you can learn how to be an entrepreneur? Are there some tendencies that maybe you're born with? Like, just kind of talk about it, in your opinion.
Yeah, great question. So beliefs, right? Innate. Are you born as a DNA, chromosomal? I don't know. I think the answer to your question is I think more people are born accountants or doctors than they are born entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurship and being an entrepreneur really is, which we talk a little bit about often, is really about a risk profile. Like where do you see yourself in the risk profile? Are you prepared to A, put in the time risk, and B, the capital risk to be successful in entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is just basically all of us crazy people that hate working for someone else, right? I can do it better than them, right? So if you go and look at, would you classify a Chick-fil-A franchisee or someone who runs a Chick-fil-A as an entrepreneur? I would say no, they're part of a team that knows how to run and maybe lead, but they're not an entrepreneur. They're running a system that works really well for them. And they're not certainly going to start creating a new way to make the chicken sandwich that everyone loves. They're going to follow the recipe. Click this button, do this, serve it out the door, and make sure you say thank you. Being an entrepreneur, you got to remember it's a whole different risk profile. When I first got started in being an entrepreneur, it was a young age, right? I was mesmerized by commerce and money, right? It was intriguing to me. Some people were out playing sports and screwing around on or chasing women or doing all these other things. I was selling T-shirts at the Grateful Dead concert at Soldier Field, or I was making tie-dye T-shirts to sell at Summerfest, which is the world's largest music festival here in Wisconsin, Milwaukee. So I would say, a lot of it starts from your background and your baseline of where you are, but it's also about your risk and what you're comfortable being, how you're comfortable being risky. And entrepreneurs traditionally have a larger risk profile and are able to take that extra step, which makes them the entrepreneur.
Got you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So with that, right, you mentioned having like a makeshift T-shirt business. I don't know how long that ran, and I'm sure you made it, probably had a couple of different businesses along the way. So I've thought about, businesses, and I was really good at math. So like I'm very formulaic based, like understanding how to do the thing at its core, and then being presented, how they got the little problems at the bottom of the page, the critical thinking, stuff like that. So translating that into business, would you say that there is a specific, maybe like a model / formula, or just certain things that have to be in place, regardless of field or niche, in order for someone to have a successful business?
I think most people get success and see success after they touch the money, right? So when I started flipping houses, I flipped my first house, I wholesaled a house. I started, chasing my dream without having any money. And when you don't have any money and you get your first $10,000, you're like, whoa.
Oh my God.
Right. I got 10 G's, right? I got 10,000 stacks. And so you're like, wow, okay. And then after that, you kind of realize, how did I do that? Because you actually have to break down the science behind how you made the money. And when you make the money and you break down the science of how you make the money, you kind of figure out, I got to do that again. So the same thing happened, right? As I fast forward through like my real estate journey, I made some money. I flipped a house. I wholesaled a house. I bought a contract. I sold it for $75,000. I'm like, wow, that's $75,000. People work years for that. And now I'm moving forward. Then all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I'm going to buy a rental property. Because of course my risk profile was go buy everything. And I bought this house I thought I was going to flip. It didn't work, right? Yeah. So now what do? Now I'm a landlord, right? So in 2005, I ended up with my first property as a landlord, and it was a mother and a daughter that lived in a duplex here in Milwaukee. And I took it to the bank. I refinanced it. I think I paid $12,000 at the time for the house, and I refinanced it. I got cash out before the burst strategy was what the burst strategy was. It was a sweat equity play. I got the tenants in place. I bought it for nothing. I refinanced and I got all my money out. And I'm like, wow, I got 100% of my money out. I have no money in that house, and my payment was $684 a month, and I was getting $1,200. So I was like, wow, I'm making some real money here. So making the real money, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do this again. And so I bought another duplex. And then the entrepreneur takes over, and you end up with 80 duplexes, right?
Right.
Then I started buying apartment buildings. I bought an 8-family, a 16-unit, a 32-unit, a 290-unit. All of a sudden, you're buying 400 units. In January of 2010, I'm buying 400 units at one time. And you're like, wow, how the hell do you do this? And what was happening was the success I had from buying that one duplex and refinancing it and getting all my money back, 100% of my money. The full burst strategy, right? The burst strategy is buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat, right? We all understand that. And that's such a great statement, right? Because that's what I did. I did that, right? I bought it. I renovated it. I put some money into it. It was already rented, so I kept the tenants in there. I just kind of spruced it up a little bit. I refinanced it. I got all my money out. Yeah. And so I kept doing that. And that strategy worked so well that I kept replicating it until I had 1,500 doors. And when you have 1,500 doors, and if you're making $150 a door, if you're making $200 average a door, you're making real money. And you become addicted to the real money. And that's the system and the process that you have. And today, I'm so grateful I ever had that journey, because that journey is what has led to, me being an entrepreneur in real estate, which is something that has created generational wealth. It's created generational cash flow. It's created generational opportunity for me. And it's been really important to see that it happens. But what happens to most people, unfortunately, is this pitfall, right? Denver, think about what happens. Somebody gets the 10 grand or they get the $75,000 wholesale fee and they start doing stupid stuff, right?
Like what?
Well, think about it. I just talked to a guy and he just made a little bit of money, a couple $100,000. And what was the stupidest thing he did? He went and bought, listen carefully, he went and bought a Lamborghini. A depreciating car was the thing he took his money to. Now, how did I meet him? Great question. I met him because he called us for a loan to fund his payroll at his business. So if you think about it, if you think about this guy who's making a journey down the road to try to be successful, to do something that's somewhat important, and he became successful, and then he failed. He falls on his face, flops on his face, and quite honestly, he'll never come back because, well, he had the ability, the pain of what he's going through right now is so punishing to him that will he be successful again? Jury's out. But will he ever be in the position he was when he first made that first amount of money? No. Because the energy, the momentum, the stress, the aggravation. So I see all the time, when you make the money, if you don't reinvest the money, if you do not reinvest the money, you get screwed. If you do not make good decisions, you screw yourself. And the decisions are yours. How many people have you known? Well, me. How many people have I talked to who have been super successful and wasted it at a nightclub? Or I've made $1 million and I just spent $1.1 million on dumb shit. Right. People, a lot of successful people, and then they end up in a total position of failure. And so being an entrepreneur is not only figuring out how to make the money, it's also knowing how to manage the money. And there's so many great opportunities out there. There's so many great books. There's so many great YouTube channels. There's so many great mentors, which we'll talk about in a minute. There's so many great things happening in this space, but don't let the life of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll that everyone hears about from the early years take over, because you will lose. I promise you that you will lose.
No, I could comment on that all day. But you touched on failure, right?
Yep.
Which is a pretty big fear of a lot of people, especially, people that don't have that risk aversion, right, that you were talking about. So I don't know, you don't really seem like the kind of person that is too fearful in this space at this stage, right? But if you can take yourself back to, I don't know, 30, 40, however many years ago, right? Or maybe, you know, put yourself in the shoes of, again, like a budding entrepreneur, somebody who hasn't gotten started but has been watching all the YouTube videos and has gone down the rabbit holes and, you know, watches all the, you know, subscribes to all the channels. How do you go about getting over that fear of failure?
Well, so a couple things. First of all, the fear of failure lives in me every day. I have a fear of failing. I do. Failure can happen at any age. If you take your eye off the ball, if you become disrespectful to a process, if you take your arrogance in front of your business skills, you become very vulnerable. And I've seen people fail at all different ages in their life. And when you start failing at an older age, it's harder to recover. When you fail at a younger age, so long as you have some tenacity, you might be able to recover. Every day, I'm always fearful of making sure I do good by my investors, my partners, my bankers, my lenders. That's my fear every day. I need to do what's right by them. And that is what keeps me going every single day. I want to make sure that my investors, it's a reputational based business, are continue to speak positively about F Street, the Hard Money Co., our business, our developments. I want it to be about everything, and I want it to be super positive so that when they think about us, they're thinking about us in a positive light. Imagine this story. I've done 100 deals, and 100 deals were successful. On the 101st deal, I failed. I lost all their money. They gave me $1 million. This is a hypothetical. Warning, this is a hypothetical. They gave me $1 million, and I lost their $1 million. Do you think they're talking about the 1 through 100, or they're talking about deal 101?
101. 100%.
All that's it. And so that needs to be alive in all entrepreneurs' minds. And no matter how hard you work, the professionalism that you carry to be successful in every deal is super important to what we're doing. And so I remain fearful of everything, and I need to make sure that we are doing what's appropriate and best for the interest of our partners, our investors, our lenders, etc.
Is that context and experience what makes it harder to rebound from failure the older you get?
No, age is not. No, arrogance traditionally I see is usually the one that jumps in there. I'm the greatest, and well, I did what I needed to do, and blah blah blah. I mean, it happens. Arrogance is dangerous. Age, not so much. I wake up earlier than I ever have right now, probably in better shape than I've ever been. Yeah. I try to eat better than I normally have had. I'm in a health mode more now than I've ever been. In my 20s and 30s, I was indestructibly young and stupid and it didn't matter. Now I'm trying to be mindful of that. So I would say the context of age is an irrelevant data point for failure, although there probably is less failure, but maybe more catastrophic failure from some of the bigger entities that fail at an older, mature stage.
Talking the day in the life of an entrepreneur, right? I see a lot of talk, a lot of discourse about morning routines.
Sure.
How important is the morning routine to a successful entrepreneur?
You know, I watch the same stuff, Denver. I get a little bit mesmerized in that space, right? Because there's some people that are, you know, hell bent on, I go to bed every night at the same night. I wake up at the same time of the day. Some add in they'll never drink alcohol. Some add in their calorie intake, their physical world, which is really, you know, it's interesting because, you know, at the end of the day, as I read everything, I'm like, wow, it can't be a one shoe fits everyone type of scenario, right? Like,
right.
Listen, I'm tonight, my schedule calls for me to go meet these guys at 5:00 for a happy hour. Yes. Could I go to the happy hour? Yes. Do I need to have 47 drinks and get, no, of course not. I went out to dinner last night, which I did with a business associate, and I had iced tea, and it was a perfectly great evening. And I woke up this morning at 5 a.m. because I had a 7:00 meeting. So I wanted to go do my exercising from 5 to 6 so I could get to the meeting by 7. So every day for me is a little different. I do believe in being efficient with my time. I think that's very important. I do also believe in getting up early. I do get up early. I wake up naturally early. I do like to work out before I get to the office because once I get to the office, I'm in a different frame of mind where I can't shut off work and go work out for 2 hours or an hour. I'm not there. I'm focused on just the tasks at hand. But I do like to work out. I do try to do my best to eat healthy. I do try to limit, obviously, any poisons that are put in your body, including alcohol. But I also live my life, right? I've got a family. I've got kids. I've got friends. I've got friends that visit in town. I've got business folks that pull you in all these different directions. And it hasn't impacted my life in a negative way to enjoy all parts of my life. I don't have a traditional routine. I do have a routine in what I wear. I wear the same clothes every day. I have multiple outfits of the same outfits. I have multiple shoes of the same shoes. I wear the same socks. I've got 54 pairs of those. I wear the same stuff. So maybe that's my routine, right? I get up and I put on my clothes and I leave the door. It takes me about 8 seconds. So I don't know, when I look at routine, I compare it as a comparative subset to the other gurus out there that are guruing about their lives. It's hard to get somebody who's not a morning person by life to be a morning person, but they might be an evening person and do their best work in the afternoon or the evening, and maybe it works really well for them and maybe it doesn't. Maybe something's are lost in translation. Maybe people could be at a better peak at a earlier stage in their life. Should they go to bed every night at 7 p.m., never drink alcohol, wake up at 4 a.m., work out for 3 hours, and then yeah, maybe. I don't know. Right. I mean, there's a downside to that too. I don't know what it is, but there has to be. So I look at, as an entrepreneur, you have to find your groove. You have to find your mojo. You have to find what works for you, right? You have to find that in the confines of what works for society alongside of that, right? I can't make business calls at 2 a.m. People would be like, what's wrong with you? Even if I'm up at 2 a.m. Right. If I start calling my employees and my business people, they're going to be like, is everything okay? No, that doesn't work. So you have to still fit within the confines of the space. And so overall, in general, I like to make sure that what you're doing what anyone's doing is healthy and good for you, feels good for you, that you feel good and that you can operate it at the highest level you can. And including in that is stretching your comfort zone and making you feel like, hey, I can do more. And that's super important.
Right. Yeah, you got to be able to sustain it. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Right. That's why every January 1st, when people make New Year's resolutions, they all break them on January 2nd because life just comes at you. And so you got to be mindful of how to be successful in that world.
Gotcha. Yeah. So in that, you mentioned managing your time management. I know I've heard a lot of different strategies when it comes to managing time. Everybody's busy, has a lot of things going on, life going on. What are some of the best time management hacks, let's call it, that you've learned and you've utilized over the years?
Yep. I'm going to answer that with a goofy answer. So my answer is working super efficiently, right? Like I feel as though I can process data and responses and thoughts and needs in a very fast, streamlined approach that when I see peers or other people doing it, I'm like, hey, come on. And then I realize, hey, maybe that's just a unique talent. So, my response is that I can work efficiently. I've taught myself how to work efficiently. I've taught myself how to multitask in a very efficient fashion. I do at the same time zero in on, hey, today is the day I've got to get X, Y, Z done. There are certain things on my list that I procrastinate on, and there's a reason for them, and I struggle to communicate that sometimes. There's a reason why, because I'm waiting for better data set, or I'm waiting for this financial packet to come, or I'm waiting for someone to get back to me. So that's what happens. But overall for me, my time management and my ability to be productive is set your daily goals, right? You don't need to take 30 hours for them. Set your daily goals. Today I want to do X, Y, Z. Go do it. Tomorrow morning, I want to walk from 5 to 7 a.m. I'm going to go do that. I promise you. I'll come in here and you're going to say, hey, how was your walk? I'm going to say, it was amazing. Then you're going to say, well, now what? And I'm going to tell you that I've got all of these other things I need to accomplish today. And I work myself through accomplishing them by what's a priority and then what's also going to be the most impactful to our balance sheet, to our P&L statement. And I really focused on my accountability to make sure that I can be accountable to all of my partners and my investors and my bankers.
So then how do you motivate yourself to do things that are lower on that list, but they still need to get done?
Yeah. So a lot of that comes down to the implications of others, right? Other people's time sometimes is held up by my time, and I want to be mindful of that. So I take a look at, hey, where are we? There's times when people are like, hey, we got to go and record today. And then 2 days later, we haven't even done anything. And that irritates people, I'm sure, but it also irritates me. But at the same time, the pressures of over here are taking over, right? I have to get something done, or there has to get something completed. So, I always try to encourage everybody. Squeaky wheel gets oil. If you need something, say something. If you're not getting what you want, there's a respectful, kind way to say something. Hey, I know we talked about it. I know we were going to get it done. Can we still get it done? Or can we look at this again tomorrow morning with a little more priority? That's perfectly acceptable. You can tell people in a nice way what you want to get done. It's very, very fine. There's also people that come in and are like, what the hell? You dogged me and I'm pissed off. And you're like, well, that's not going to work, right? And so you have to be mindful of what you're trying to accomplish. And then when you're accomplishing it, you want to make sure that you're doing it in an effective way to reach the goals, right? Our goals, 50 loan closings a month. We're working towards that right now. Everybody understands that goal, and everyone understands we're working towards that. So, I hope that solved that answer.
Yeah, I mean, empathy is key.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
So I've got one more fun one.
Okay, love it.
I've seen this. I think this guy actually has an account where he just literally asks this question to a bunch of people that have a lot of money.
Okay.
And the question is, if you had to start over today and you had to make, I don't know, sometimes he says 10K a month or 100K a year, what would be the first? You have no money, $0 in the bank account. What would be the first thing that you would do?
Well, it would certainly be real estate based. Real estate has been a very impressive lifeline, establishment, cash flow, process flow for me. It creates wealth. It creates tax depreciation. It creates phantom value that over the next 20 years continues to increase in value. So it's got to be real estate based. Then I look at, hey, what do you do to do so? And then you have to put in like, hey, I would go and network. And then you're like, well, I don't have any money. Hey, I'd go and do this. Well, I don't have any money. So you have to figure out how to get a little money, right? So you also have to figure out, well, are you going to go work at McDonald's flipping burgers? Are you going to go, whatever it is, you're going to go drive Uber, which exists today, and you can go get a few bucks and be mindful. People that say they have no money, it's a prioritization at the end of the day. They have no money for what you want them to spend money on. They have money because you talk to you, I have no money. Well, how'd you just spent $1,000 this month on fast food? You're like, well, I had to eat. I'm like, okay, you had no money and you had to eat. I get it. So you have to think through it a little bit differently. For me, is hold yourself accountable, put the excuses down, go attack the industry you want. For me, it's real estate. I would go and buy rentals. I'd go flip houses. I'd go buy more rentals. I'd go wholesale some houses if I could. I would do everything I can in the real estate world, and I would do that all through networking with local peers, people that are doing it, people that are successful in it, people that are faking it, get away from them, right? You'll see those people out there. People that are causing all the noise, go away from them. Be mindful of who you're talking to and who you're interacting with, and then make sure that those people can impact your life. If they can't, move on.
I think we got ourselves a great episode.
Awesome. Denver, thanks for joining me. My name is Scott Lurie, and you've just listened to The Hard Truths. Thanks for being here.
Peace.